Yeah, I'm an audio grad too. You want me to start again? Or just go on? Everybody got it? We good? Okay, we'll keep moving. So you have read the bios on all of these gentlemen before you came in, so I'm just going to introduce them very quickly, and we'll go ahead and get started. Mr. Jonathan Mayer works with Sony Entertainment, a 2000 recording arts graduate. Martin Potoczny, he is a 2005 graduate. He's also a Hall of Fame 8 inductee. He has his own company, LUXE Creative. Right? Yes. And we have David Farmer. He's a Hall of Fame 3 inductee, and he was a 1992 recording arts graduate. And, of course, Castellon, he is a 2000 recording arts graduate, and he works at the Criteria Studios down south. Yeah. So, welcome all these guys. That's your cue, yeah. So what I'd like you guys to do is think back when you were first started in the university. And obviously there's anxiety associated with starting a college degree. Fast forward to the end of your degree, you graduated. Do any of you feel like you had the same level of anxiety or possibly even more? What do you think?
I think my anxiety level when I graduated was about quadruple what it was when I started here. Walking in, I had a great experience here. I'd been working briefly in the music business before I started here, and so when I walked into Full Sail, it was just like this cloud lifting off all these things that I had kind of been, I'd taught myself and learned on the job, but instantly I just felt like I was home. And so for that reason, leaving scared the heck out of me because I was so comfortable here and I had such a great time. And then, of course, the thought of what now was terrifying.
Exactly. Any of you feeling that way out there maybe? Yes, a lot of hands. Demo, you want to add to that?
I think it just becomes a different set of anxiety that you can develop. While you're here, it's one thing. It's like, am I going to get this material? Am I going to learn this? Is it, what this is new to me, or it might be something, am I actually improving? Am I getting better? So you have all that going on. Then when you leave, it's like, damn, am I going to get a job? Am I going to be able to pay this financial aid? Like all that develops. That's natural, because even as you go further along in your career, other things come up. I mean, it's okay to have that. It's natural. You're not weird because you got that. It's understanding that that's just part of the process and not letting that stop you from what it is you're doing. Because see, most people feel that, and then they start going, oh man, I can't do it, and then they get stuck. And when you get stuck, guess what? You ain't doing nothing. So it's important to know that that's there, but don't let it stop you, because let's be honest, the only one's going to stop you is you. And if you locked up in that, then you're going to be stuck. No bueno.
Yeah. Well, thinking about that anxiety, how did you move into your first job, David? How did that happen?
Well, I might be breaking the mold from the conversation here a little bit, because when I graduated, I was pretty cocky. I came into the school not knowing anything about recording, and really had my head down the whole year, around the clock. And when I graduated, I thought I knew everything, which clearly wasn't the case, but I guess I was shielded a little bit in those first few months by what I thought I knew and not by what I really knew. I'm actually probably more nervous now than I was then. So over the course of the years, reality sets in, and you start to realize the things you don't know. And I think it was a security blanket for me in the beginning, a little bit of naivety in thinking I knew more than I did. And I don't know that I would have made the same choices if I had been terrified, because I drove straight from here to Burbank, and I went to work at a company in EFX Systems in Burbank. And it was like day one, I saw people doing things that I thought, oh wow, yeah, I got a thing or two to learn here, Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question.
That's good. So how did you went out to Burbank? How did you get in the door to that?
Well, I was sort of single-minded when I was here, because I came here because I wanted to learn the synclaviers. And I learned the synclaviers for doing post and sound design. And I picked the company I wanted to work at because they had the most synclaviers of anybody that was doing post sound. So I had my sights set on them. And when I flew out to interview for internships, they were my first stop, and I had 2 more places to go interview. And when they said they would take me, I didn't even go to the other 2. I just said that's where I wanted to be. I was very tunnel visioned where I wanted to go, and they took me.
That's great. Now you mentioned internships. Martin, did you do any internships before you moved into what you're doing now?
I didn't do any. No, I didn't. I applied to 4 companies, one in Boston, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York. And I drove around the coast, slept on friends' couches, was putting suits on, running out the door to job interviews, trying to find somewhere to park in New York to go in, and was just excited. I was terrified because I didn't know what was going to happen or where I was going to end up. And I ended up getting 3 of the 4 job offers, and I chose the job in Boston.
Wow.
And I started there and spent a few years there, and then I kind of closed that chapter, and I went on to touring for about 4 years, and then I started my company. So
when you began your first jobs, I think it's safe to say you just threw yourselves completely into it and working probably an incredible amount of hours a week. Is that a safe assumption on my part?
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And it was out of the love for it, I'm sure, that you had the opportunity to do what you studied, and now I'm going to go for it. Demo, I remember you saying that because of your work ethic, Timbaland just kind of pulled you aside and used you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, he just saw that I was always there. He was always hungry. A lot of the people that worked with me was for that reason. They were just looking for somebody at that time, and I was always there. Like I just lived in that place. I got one of my siblings here. He'll tell you he didn't see me for months at a time. My family thought I had moved to another country. I mean, they were like, "Where's this dude at? He's never here." And I just lived in the studio. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a producer. I wanted to make records. So to me, the idea of not being there didn't make any sense. It's the same reason when I came to school here. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Like coming from high school or college, wherever you were before, and then you come here, this is like Disney World. They're like, man, you got all this cool stuff. Then you're in audio, you got all this stuff with film. It's like, man, there's so much stuff going on. You don't really want to leave. So I took that same approach when I left here in my career. I said, I'm just going to do the same thing that made me successful at school. I'm just going to do it in my career. And I never left. And then a lot of people took notice to that because you can't get the opportunity if you ain't there. And I got a lot of opportunities because other people weren't there. So they're like, oh, next man down. Because, you know, the show don't stop. If you ain't there, somebody will take that slot. But the longer you're there, the more opportunities come. Most people don't give themselves that. They take themselves out of the game and never get a shot. Like, man, you got to sit on that bench till it's ready. And, you know, you might not play for a while, but hey, when it's time, somebody's going to go down and you're going to get a shot. And then when you get a shot, you just do the best you can, and that's it, and go from there. So that's what really helped me out.
That's great. Great. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And thinking early on in your careers, what would you say was the biggest challenge right out of school? Let's take it from you're employed, you're doing something. What was a challenge, a distraction? What made it difficult for you? Can you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, mine was one I created for myself, which is just I'm notoriously impatient, and I think that you know, I mean, just building on what Demo said, I went out of my way to be there all the time. I was working at a studio in San Francisco, and I started off as a runner and that kind of thing. And I think what drove me to be there all the time was my impatience, because I thought I should be doing more. I really wanted things to happen. And I, you know, if I could go back and talk to that guy, I'd, you know, tell him that because of how hard he was working and stuff, that things were going to happen, and because of being there and showing up, being on time, and things like that. But definitely, I struggled for a long time, and I still do sometimes with just waiting for the things to come to me in their own time.
Yeah. What do you think, David? Do you have thoughts on that?
I'm going to sort of mirror what Demo said, because to me the challenge was there wasn't enough hours in the day for me to be at the studio. Because I would when I first got my first few gigs, I was working night shift, and I'd start my day at around 7 p.m., work till about 3 in the morning, and that's when I'd go off the clock. But I would stay until the morning crew kicked me out at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and it would just piss me off when they would come in, because I just wanted to stay and play on these toys, because it was a win-win for everybody. I was giving them work, I was getting experience, and I was working for cheap at the time, and they were getting a lot of material out of me, and I was getting a lot of experience, but I just couldn't. I didn't want to do anything else except exactly what Demo said, be in the studio all the time, learning the chops, because I knew that one day I was going to get a bigger shot, and if I wasn't ready when the shot came, I might miss it, So it was just trying to get as much time as I could on the equipment and practice.
That's great. How many of you were interns starting off? You were, yeah?
Yeah.
Jonathan, you said you were?
Yeah, it was.
I got paid, but it was still an internship.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
But it was a paid internship, but it was still pretty much.
So what's a day in the life of an intern that you remember?
Man, it sucks. I mean, it's awesome that you're getting a shot, but if you break it down to what you're doing, you're not doing what you think you're doing. You want to be in the studio. You want to be on a set. You want to be, animated. You want to be doing what you came here to do. But when you get out of here, the reality is it doesn't work that way. And if you look at what you're doing and say, man, this really sucks. Like, if I had to do it now, I wouldn't do it. But back then, man, I loved it. I loved painting the walls, and I loved going to get food, and I loved it because I was there. But I'm telling you, it wasn't glorious. It wasn't glorious to have to go and, clean up after somebody's mess, or have to pave. You know what it is to pave a parking lot of asphalt in the middle of August in Miami? Man, that's like hell, man. I don't wish that on anybody, but I did it with a smile. I loved it. I'm like, oh, I can't wait till I'm done with this. It's not glorious. It can be, I'm sure, for some people, but in my experience, it wasn't. But man, that next step, once I got out of that stage, was just awesome.
Yeah, it's like if you do that job well,
Yeah,
you
awesome.
won't be in that job long.
Nah, you won't
Right?
be. And it wasn't long. It was, I would tell you, well, I mean, I still, don't get it twisted. If someone asks, if I'm working with somebody and they want a hamburger and they're paying me, I'll go get the burger. I ain't waiting, making sure that they get what they want. I might not clean the bathroom, but I'll do whatever I'll do what I got to do. And it's worth it. It's worth it. And to me, the biggest obstacle you are going to find when you leave here is you. It ain't your employer. It ain't whether there's enough jobs. It's you. It's whether you can get up every day and do what you got to do in order to get what you want to get. That's it. Ain't nobody else. People say there ain't no jobs. There's no this. There's no that. Man, that's nonsense. There's plenty of us that work. I ain't never had a problem getting a job in 17 years. If there was a problem with jobs, don't you think in 17 years I would have found it? I'm not the only one like that. There's a plethora of people like that. But if you listen to all the other people say, oh, there ain't no work, it's so hard, it's so difficult, yeah, they're going to have that. You don't got to have that. You can go out and get it. There's a lot to get. Entertainment is a massive field.
Oh, yeah.
Music, film, computers, animation, whatever it is, there's a lot of work there. But it's only there for the people that want it. And now you got to work. And no one's going to hand it to you. You got to go get it. But trust me, when you get it, ooh, it's so nice. It's nice, man. It's really nice.
That's good. David, did you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, internships are different depending on where you go. I had an internship at EFX, and when I got there, I thought just like, I'd been to Full Sail and everything was very well regimented. The courses were laid out, your clock, was punched. And I thought, okay, now they've got a schedule here for my internship. They're going to groom me to be this person. I got there the first day. They didn't know what to do with me. Mm-hmm. I mean, they called it an internship, and they had an internship that had interns before, but there was no plan. Mm-hmm. I thought, okay, they're going to walk me through this so I can become this person that they want me to be. And I realized very quickly they had no idea what my internship was. They didn't know I'd show up and they'd be like, okay, well, okay, I guess you can go sit in with ADR today. You just go over there. And the next day I'd go, okay, now what? Okay, well, maybe you should go watch the TV mix, on Renegade or something like that. I quickly realized there was no plan, that it was mine. The internship was mine to make, so I had to make sure that I made myself. I realized right away I've got to pick. If I want to be in the sound effects, I've got to make sure I'm in the sound effects department. I don't wind up in the dialogue department, and they're not going to hire me. They don't have a plan to train me. They don't have a plan to hire me. So I had to make sure that I made myself indispensable to them, so that when I finally couldn't work for free anymore, they had to start paying me. Because I started doing work for them, making temp sound effects to hand out to picture departments that were making requests for sounds, and that became a job that I was doing all the time. And I started to realize, okay, that is a job that if I'm not doing, they've got to pull one of these other people off of a show to do it. So that's when I finally realized I was worth their money.
That's great. You were talking about free internship. You had a paid internship. I'm sure you didn't get wealthy on that internship salary.
It was highway robbery, man. Like minimum wage was, I think, $7. They paid me like $5.50, and it was criminal what they were doing. Criminal, but I was happy. It was so.
When we take that into consideration, and you think of your income, and maybe it's not very high. How do you maintain a lifestyle so that you can work those 50, 60, 70, 80 hours? I mean, like food and a place to live and that kind of thing. Martin, you have anything you think on that? Or?
Yeah, I think you just have to make it happen. If you want to find your way into your dream job or your dream career, there's no magic way. There's no conversation you can have with someone. You just have to find a way. So if it's even, changing your kind of lifestyle, like you may have to modify, like you may not live the way you lived when you were younger or with your parents or at Full Sail. I mean, it is kind of a Disneyland type approach here, and it's wonderful, and you have your hands on everything, and it's, this incredible positive environment, but the rest of the world might not be that way. And there are a lot of great places to work and do intern, but if there's a certain place you want to work, a certain studio, a certain firm, or you may have to make adjustments, and you might learn that that's not the right place for you, and you might move on to the next thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It's a journey, it's an exploration, and it's always changing, and the challenges never go away. I mean, I think back to my challenges in high school and college and Full Sail, and then in my first couple of jobs at other production companies, and now with my own company. They're always going to be there. It's just you get smarter. You learn to let some things go that were so important to you at one point in your life, and you look back and you think about times when there was something you were totally consumed by something, and now it doesn't even matter. You're on to a new set of challenges. And I think that is really, something to keep in mind. It's important that, life isn't easy, and we're all here because we wanted to work in a very special world that very few people have the chance to see, work in, get their foot in the door. And, you're here for a reason, but you still have to work hard, and you have to make smart decisions, smart connections, smart choices, and it's just going to be a lifelong process. So,
Jonathan, you had a great thing you shared with me about finances and how you had separate accounts.
Yeah, well, this was a little later. I mean, I figured this out by screwing myself up constantly financially, but like Demo said, I mean, I had a similar path where I left here and I got the first job that I was offered at a studio full-time. And it was like an internship, but this was in 2000, so it was the peak of the original .com bubble in San Francisco. And like a genius, my then fiance and I moved into San Francisco with, neither one of us had a job. We were looking for apartments. We'd go to open houses where people were literally yelling out bids on the apartment. It was horrifying. And we took turns having nervous breakdowns about it, like each night. And we wound up in an apartment that was a 900 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. At the time, it was $1,500 a month, and I was making $7 an hour. And just backing up for a second to your question about working the hours, I had to work all those hours. I mean, I wanted to be there, but if I didn't log like 70 or 80 hours in a week, I couldn't eat. So I had to put the hours in just to stay alive and pay the rent. But a few years into that, because it's so, as a freelancer, which I technically was, which is a whole other conversation. I don't know that the studios in our area do this as much as they used to, but I was technically a contractor at the studio I was working at, so I wasn't granted some of the things you would be as an employee, and like overtime. So I worked these crazy hours, and a big project would come up that I'd be attached to for a long time, and I'd make a lot of money. And I was not smart about it at first. You know, I'd be like, oh, there's all the stuff I wanted and couldn't have. And so what I did about 2 or 3 years into that is I opened a second checking account, and I didn't formalize this. I didn't register myself as a company or anything, but I basically treated that like the company's money. And I started putting all my money in there and paying myself a salary, which was the least I could live on at the time. And I don't want to make it sound like I was perfect about that, because I didn't. I broke those rules a lot. But it did help to just form some kind of discipline. And it's carried over. I mean, these ups and downs continue to happen for me, you know, where there are really big feast years, and there's some years that are a little more on the famine side. Production's tricky. I can't control the schedules and things like that of the projects I'm attached to. So planning for the lean times is something that I think I learned back then that stuck with me, and I'm really glad I learned.
So thinking about being freelance, you know, mentioning that, was there, just in the spirit of transparency, was there ever a time when you got yourself in trouble with taxes, or realized that I didn't save enough back for taxes, and I gotta pay quite a bit? Did that ever happen? Yes.
Yes. That's all I'll say to that.
I gotta
Listen, when you start making money, on that note, get in the discipline to start. I mean, if you live in Florida, just get in the discipline of putting 30% away. It'll just save you. Use that for your accounting, use it for whatever. Just get in the discipline of doing that from the jump. When you start making money that's substantial, we're talking about anything over like 30, 40, 50. When you start getting up in those numbers and higher, get into that habit. Because the worst thing that could happen is that you think you got money, and then the IRS goes and takes the money, and you ain't got no money for your bills. And it's happened. And the good thing is you won't make that mistake twice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. We talked about the importance of finances. You might remember the workshop we did with finances. You remember that? Yes. So it's really important to always keep that in mind, because you are going to have to pay yourself sometimes. You are going to have to pay taxes, and maybe cry a little bit when you pay the rent check. All of that comes into it. So I have a kind of a unique question for you. If you were sitting in front of a group of 200 graduates, Full Sail graduates, what would you say to them?
Martin?
Well, yeah, I think it just, it sort of goes back to what I said, is you're in a place in your life where you have to make some decisions, and it's probably the second biggest decision. You made a choice to come here, which is a great decision, and you've got an education, but now you have to hit the streets and get to work, and at least start a path. And it's not like the first place you're going to go is going to be, well, it could be for some people, and I know it has been, certainly, of course, your dream job or your your right foot in the door. It might be the wrong foot in the door. I've learned so much from the time I started here till today. I can't even explain it. It would take us days or months to go over all the life lessons and all the experiences. But you just have to get started. And I feel like that's something, is you can get kind of close to graduation and you're freaking out. You're planning your portfolio, you see places that you may want to apply to. You're working with the teams here to kind of see what's possible, and you may have friends that you made over the way that have graduated, and you're reaching out to them. You just have to get started, and not waiting or delaying, I think, is the most important thing, because the sooner you get started, the sooner that you're going to realize either that those first steps are right for you or they're wrong, and you need to check your course and possibly make another move.
That's very well said. I can remember when I was younger, my dad said to me, your first car doesn't have to be a Cadillac. You know, so your first job doesn't have to be a dream job, right? Your dream job. It can be a job, and then it moves you forward. David, what would you say to a group of graduates?
I would say ride your momentum that you feel right now, your passion that you feel right now. At a certain point, it can become, there are days where it's just a job, and you're kind of looking at stuff going, really, do I have to work on this? Do I have to work on this today? So I would say, you know, that takes a while. So something just happened here.
You okay?
Take this one.
Test.
There it is.
I'm here. I would say ride that momentum and be aware that the entertainment industry succeeds on youth, and I don't mean this in a negative way, really, but it takes advantage of your passion and what you're willing to do, and figure out a way of turning that into your advantage as well as theirs, because they're looking for you, because old guys like me, you know, are expensive, and they would much rather have people that have a passion for it and they can mold and that they can tell what they want to do. So I would say use that to your advantage, and don't expect there to be one way in where you want to go. Because one of the questions I get every year and around all year long is, how do I get in? What should I do? And I can't tell you what you should do, because everybody I know that's in my business particularly have gotten in it in an absolutely different way. There'll be people say, how do I get into work at Skywalker? I'm like, honestly, don't know. I've got people that I've worked with for 15, 20 years that haven't worked there yet. And I'll turn around one day and there'll be somebody new there, an intern. I'm like, how did you get here? Because I don't know. So, you know, there are multiple avenues, and everybody's got your own way. And you've got to figure out what that is. And we can't, unfortunately, we don't have an answer for what your way is in.
Yeah. I want to give you guys a chance to ask some questions. I know you're really dying here. So how do you want to do this, Elliot? Me? Hand mine? Okay. We have a question here in the front, right here.
Hello? There we go. My question is, after you graduated, how big a role did the career, like student success services, play in you landing your first job or having your first step? Like, how much did the school help you along?
15%, I'd tell you. Yeah, about 15%, which was pretty much me asking them, these are the options I'm thinking about, getting a second opinion. If you're relying on them, you're going to be cooked, because there's no way. They're not going to be able to do it for you. They're a tool that you can use to help build your house, but they are not the architect, and they are definitely not the contractor. They're just the hammer or whatever it is you need to lay the foundation. I did get one piece of advice, which was monumental. It probably changed the whole trajectory of my career, which was, I was thinking about taking a second program. And my placement advisor was just like, you are crazy. I spoke to all your instructors. You need to get out there right now. Like, this is it. I was like, what are you, crazy? Like, you're going to get fired, man. I'm trying to give the school more money. Like, she's like, no, you got to go. And that piece of advice changed everything for me. She helped me, at the time, come up with second options. Well, what if I don't get a job here? It was a person I could talk to and get a different opinion, but there was no relying on them. I think the most she did was mail it out for me, because I had no money to mail the thing out. So she did that for me, but don't rely on them. Absolutely not. Don't rely on anybody for anything. Like, you got to count on yourself, man. Like, if you rely on anybody else, you're just leaving your destiny in somebody else's hand, and guess what? You're going to be out of luck when it comes up. I kept it PG.
Got a question back here in the back?
Hello.
Hi.
This is hold on. This question is for Demo.
Okay.
My bad. Like, can you just give an example or like a story when you like really had to persevere? Like, you know, when it got kind of rough and you just had to jump over that obstacle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To keep on going.
I mean, man, there's a lot. I'll give you one of my earlier ones. Like when I first got my gig at the Hit Factory, I got it in August 2011. You already know what happened a month later. September 11th came, and then studio went ghost for like 6 or 7 months. And man, it was tough. Like there was people that were really skilled and talented leaving. And I'm going, man, did I just like jump on the Titanic? Is it over? Like, so there was a lot of doubt. And you're gonna have a lot of doubt. It's what's gonna happen. You're gonna leave here and you're gonna have a lot of momentum. That's why it's so important to get into action and start doing these things, because you're gonna start hitting speed bumps, you're gonna start hitting obstacles right from the jump. And you gotta persevere to that. You gotta just keep pushing yourself. And the only way you can push yourself is to just keep doing it. And it's with action. The only way to get satisfaction is with action. That's why the word is in there. So when all that was sinking, I just kept going, you know what? This is where I wanted to be. I got the opportunity to be here. Like, everybody else is jumping. I'm not everybody else. This is what I'm going to do. And I stuck to it. And there were a lot of people that were like, man, you're really good. Go somewhere else. This place is done with. No one's going to come here. And 6 months later, everybody came there. And all those people that left couldn't get back in. And I was left. And the rest is history. So there's times it's gonna get dark. It's gonna be scary. You're gonna have to pay people, and just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Keep pushing.
Yes. Elliot, there's one right here in the second row. Gentlemen.
My question is, if you could look back or talk to your younger selves, what would you say to them? You know, just got out of Full Sail, wide-eyed, ready to go. What would you look to them and tell them about the journey that they have ahead?
Great question.
That's a good question.
I mean, I think it's something that I still say to myself pretty regularly. But like Martin was saying earlier, I think with experience, you sort of learn to let certain things go. But the thing that I wish I had had a clearer handle on is just how to stay out of my own way. And it's come up already. Yeah. But somebody said this to me recently when we were talking about just sort of the like Demo said too, like the fear, the anxiety, these things that come with trying to do what we do. I think when you're really driven, especially in a creative career, that those are some of the things that drive you, and you have to find ways to balance those things with just not completely freaking out all the time. And so staying out of my own way, what I mean by that is to realize that a lot of the stories that are in my head or were in my head about how hard things are or why things wouldn't work or things like that, like a lot of the negative speak, someone said to me, those things are just like a rainbow. They look really, really real. They're really vivid, but you can't touch it. You can't ever sort of arrive at it. You can't find the end of it. It's not a real thing. And so as soon as you start to learn, you know, tricks and ways to detach yourself from those things as being, quote, real, and just sort of look at them and recognize them for what they are, the easier everything becomes. And I think over time, starting to practice those kind of things has also made me easier to be around for other people too, which in all our industries are, you know, collaboration and, you know, connecting with other people. Like none of us does anything in a vacuum. And so that's important too. So that would be my answer.
Well done. Right up here in the front.
Hi. Thank you guys for coming. I know your time is valuable, so I really appreciate you guys being here. I'll keep it brief. My question is, what do you guys look for in somebody like that graduates? I'll be graduating later this year, and I'm not sure what my next move is, but I know I would like to try and end up out west, perhaps San Francisco or Seattle-based area. Getting a job, what is something that you look for in somebody that you want them to bring to the table? Is there something specific? Is there an expectation that they need to meet in order to stay on board, or is there something that they should maybe avoid doing long term or short term? Thank you.
Dude, you
Say, ooh,
got- There it is.
sorry, it's just me. I look for some humility. You know, a lot of it's got to do with personality interaction. You know, a person can be trained as long as they, stay out of their own way. But when you're meeting somebody, it's important that they, a lot of times the younger people try to really impress you with what they know, or what they think they know, right off the bat. And when somebody comes out of the gate, they've got some grooming, so there's a ways to go. So I think what I'm usually impressed with is when I see people who present something to me and take feedback, listen to what I've got to say and don't take offense at it. I've had lots of people send me things. Oh man, can you review this for me? I did this work on this project. Can I send you this thing? Can I get some feedback? And I'll give them feedback, and they'll get all defensive about it. Now, what I realize is they don't want my feedback. They want my praise, and I can't give them that yet. I'm trying to give them real information. Some things I've learned over the years, and when somebody sends me something like that and they're going to defend it, then they're not going to go very far with me. So I'm looking for somebody that can listen to the experience and interpret that and use it.
I'm gonna add to that because humility is without a doubt. If you think you're too big for your britches, that ain't gonna work. But if you got that, and also that you have drive, and drive for me is probably the biggest. Anybody that works with me has to have that. And I don't let nobody close to me. So if someone is consistently going and they get that close to me, I give them an opportunity. But there are people that come at me like, oh man, I want to do this and that. I'd be like, oh yeah, all right. Make me 30 beats in the next 2 weeks. All right, yeah, man, I could do it. I never hear from them again. That person ain't gonna get a job. Like, I give people tasks all the time, and I give them tasks that are pretty much impossible. Because if they can do that, then I know I can put them in a room with somebody and they're gonna do the impossible. Because my job and all our jobs refers around creating the impossible. Because that's what you won't get to that yet. This is like Jedi training. But when you guys get to that level, that's what we do. We create the impossible. Like, people come to us because they expect a certain level that no one else can deliver, and we make it happen. And that's what really defines the things that we do and why we have longevity. And you get to that. And drive is the fuel to the car to that. So just it's not about not taking no. It's about constantly looking to get and improve and get better and contribute.
Yeah, there's a fine line between tooting one's own horn and being a braggart.
Yeah.
And you got to find that right in the center.
Yeah.
Show the confidence, but not arrogance.
Right.
That's right.
That that kind of thing. Yes, front row here. Yes.
Stand up. So a few years ago, I went to Nature Survival School, and at this school, we were assigned a project in which our group had to create a code of honor to live our lives. I was wondering, if you guys had a code of honor, what would you put on it? A couple of things.
That's a good one.
Code of honor.
You want to think a minute?
Yeah, I'm gonna think for a minute. I don't know.
Man, I tell you, my whole thing in life is, my whole purpose for being is to inspire and empower others to unlock their true self. So to get to whatever they need to get to that's inside of them and pull it out of them. And that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? I look to make massive impact in anything I do. So whether it's here, whether I'm in the studio, whether I'm at home, whether I'm with my kid, it doesn't matter, my child, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. So that's what drives me. So my survival fit is that's what I do. I can see things in people and I know what it is, and I could get them from where they are to where they want to get to. And that's what drives me, is to be able to do that.
That's pretty good there, Demo.
Yeah, man, just a sage.
Very good.
This guy.
Yeah, over here in the front here.
Hello, gentlemen.
Huh?
So my question to you is portfolio. When you left Full Sail, did you have a whole bunch of passion projects that you made while you were at Full Sail? Did you only have what your professors assigned you? How did it affect when you presented yourself to potential employees or internships? And what would your mindset be as someone? I'll use myself as an example. This is my first month here, and
First or fifth? Sorry. First month, okay.
And I'm always looking to push myself. My other thing is, as artists, I like to assume no matter what we do, we create something. We're all kind of an artist, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We're our own worst critic. How do you guys deal with, kind of you create something and you're like, it's not good enough? How do you experience that? How do you deal with it? And I guess those are my two questions. Thank you.
I mean, he touched on it earlier, man. You got to get out of your own way. You're getting in your own way. Like, stop critiquing your damn self. It's just art, man. It's not damn rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Do it and put it out. Who cares? It's good enough. And if it's not and it doesn't work, somebody will give you feedback, you improve it and put out the next version. Listen, we live in an age where the first version isn't even the final version. There's like version 6.0, 5.0. I mean, look at damn Apple. You just keep improving it.
Yeah, there's no final.
There's no final. Like, get out of here. Like, stop being so hard on yourself.
We put the word final on things as a joke.
Yeah.
At work.
Yeah.
Final cut's not even final. Right?
But I think to add to that real quick, because I got this question a lot yesterday too at the Career Expo, is that I have two answers to the same question about portfolio, and I think it answers your other question too. And I don't think people love hearing this, but I interview probably at least 15 to 20 intern candidates a year on average, and we don't listen to submissions from them because that's not why we're hiring them. And I know that sounds a little bit harsh, but at the same time, I think if your goal is to be in a creative field, that you have to be producing constantly. And I think building on what Demo said, finishing things in my mind is much more important than making the perfect thing.
Yeah.
And so if I'm hiring someone as a composer, the expectation is that they're going to deliver 3 to 5 finished sounding minutes of music a day. And I guarantee that they spent a lot of time getting to that point. Because it's a craft, right? You're making things, and you have to be really good at it, and you have to be really good and really fast, because the last thing you want is people waiting on you, and that confidence that you need in your own craft mostly comes from experience. It's not going to come because you just woke up one day and were super inspired. It's going to come because you've put thousands of hours in to honing a craft.
I'm pretty sure for none of us here, when we were here, portfolios, that's a newer style of teaching. We didn't really have that. The way we were taught was a lot different. It was a whole different system. So I have two folds for that. For one, for somebody that might be in computer animation or other programs, that might work. It might give you a little more leverage getting a job, but it's really the completion part. You're just getting in the habit of completing things.
Right.
And that's, doing it in a timely fashion. And a lot of you I know, because some of you I know personally, like, you take too damn long to get something done. And in today's age, like, man, it's about speed. It's quality, but you got to get quantity too. You have to find that balance. And some of you spend all your time on quality and there's not enough quantity and you're missing the boat. You got to speed it up.
Anybody in here a perfectionist? Okay, let go of that, okay? Let go.
You were.
Let go. There's plenty of time for that later. That old Dr. Phil line, how's that working for you, right? It's not too well, I wouldn't think. Yes, here in the second row here.
This question is probably for Martin. How do you go about recruiting the right talent when you started out with your company?
Sure. Well, this is a question I've gotten all day. It's changed over the years. So, there's been times where I've hired people because I really needed help quickly and I maybe didn't spend enough time researching that person or people. I didn't spend enough time with them, talking with them. So it's certainly changed over the years. For the type of work that I do, I have extremely demanding clients. They're private events, corporate events at the highest levels where there's no room for error. There's no file that can be delayed. There's no wiggle room with anything. So I have to have a team who understands that we're creating the impossible for clients. It could be in their personal life or in their business. So it really comes down to a few things. You have to have a great attitude is the most important thing for me. The second thing is you have to be excited about what we're doing. So if I can't see some sort of passion, excitement in their eyes when we're talking, what's the point of even continuing that conversation? And the third thing is you have to be willing to learn because, I'm probably not the best speaker, but I'm a pretty good teacher. So if you come in to my world and in my studio and I see that you have a certain skill set, we'll try that, but I'll also try you at a few other things. The team I have now, which is phenomenal, I'm so thankful for them, but it's taken me 7 years to find them. I've been through 40 people in 5 years, and I'm not proud of that, but I had no choice. I mean, I brought people in, I gave them a shot, they didn't work out, but it really comes down to the attitude, passion and drive, and the willingness to learn, and being there on time, excited, flexibility. I mean, it's sort of challenging because to work at my studio, you have to give up part of your personal life. There's no other option. And we work weekends, we work long hours. There's times when we have a big show that we're loading in. It might be a 9-day load in. It could be 15, 16 hours a day, and you just have to accept that. And if you can't, then you can't work with me. So it's kind of crazy, but that's just the reality of the work that we're doing for the clients we're doing, and it just is what it is.
Jonathan and Demo might remember this. They were students of mine many, many years ago, and one of the things that I would routinely say to the students each month, I'd ask them a question. Have you ever worked with a jerk before?
True story.
How was that working with a jerk? You're afraid to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then the answer is pretty simple. Don't be a jerk. It's not complicated. Be the person you want to work with, and it works every time.
Every time.
Well, and treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Who else has a question? Who else? Okay. You got a second row here? Or your hand up? Okay. We'll go in the front. Or in the front here, Elliot.
To start off with, I just want to say I want to be part of this industry because I'm fascinated with evolution, and with entertainment, it's always evolving throughout the years. Out of all industries inside of this world, entertainment will always be evolving.
Yes.
But sometimes they can get a bit overwhelming. So I want to ask you, how do you guys deal with that ever-evolving system, new tools, new kind of techniques that go around inside the entertainment industry? Can it sometimes even overwhelm you as professionals, or do you find ways to get around that?
I breathe. Like, you need to breathe, bro. Just no, chill. I know, breathe. It's all right. Yeah, it's changing, but the world is changing, man. Everything is always constantly changing. As human beings, we're changing. You're changing. Like, listen, the world is not going to end, bro. You're going to be all right. You just got to get into action and do it. Like, technology changes. It's changed. I mean, when I started, we were still doing records on tape. That wasn't that long ago. I graduated just not that long ago. It went from tape to completely digital, where it was like, oh shit, I spent all this time learning this. Like, we were still taught on tape when I was here. I know it sounds like it's so old, but it's not that long ago. And, that's what I thought the medium was. And then it was like half Pro Tools, and then I was doing half sessions in Pro Tools, half on things changed. And guess what? You adapt. Because if you don't adapt, you don't get a job. So trust me, it seems like a lot because you're not in it right now, and you're seeing it from outside. But when you're in it, you just go. You just say, okay, well, I guess I got to learn this now. I got to do this, and you just figure out the things you got to do, and you go and you do them. It's not rocket scientists. I mean, we're not doing anything that's that crazy. We're just doing it. The same thing you got to do. Just go do it and breathe, of course.
So, David, 25 years ago, you graduated from.
We don't need to talk about how long.
That's okay. You're still with us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Think of the changes that you've seen.
Yeah, a lot of the changes have been recent. with Dolby Atmos and VR, which is just, nobody quite knows how to deal with that yet. We've got teams at Skywalker that are looking at it, and we're talking to people, and they're like, how do you do that? They're like, well, no, we don't know yet. Nobody quite knows how to implement that yet. So it's an evolution. If you like evolution, you're in the right place, because it's never going to stop. And I think you should take some comfort in that you don't have to know it all. I mean, it's a team of people. Like I work on a crew. I learn things from my assistants. You know, they're the younger people that come up with this new technology is just what's current to them. So, you know, with films, we've got like, you know, all kinds of different releases, 5171. You know, you got Atmos and Oro 3D and all these things, and it just sort of gets overwhelming. But you're working with a team. You know, in my field anyway, you're working with a team, and you rely on people that have certain specialties, and people. If you have one of those things that you're attached to that you know well, that's what you're going to get to do, because you fill that gap of what needs to get done. And if you're looking after it, good. I don't have to, you know. So, you got to hire good people to just fill out the whole team and get it done. So it's going to keep evolving. It's not stopping here, that's for sure.
That's great. I thought of something, though, Martin, I wanted to ask you when you were talking about the type of people that you'd want working. How do you get them to be an extension of you so that you're all doing the same?
Right.
Can we have more of you?
I want to hear this.
I mean, it's really interesting because until a few years ago, I had a personal challenge was I had trouble taking my hands off of every aspect of my studio and business and all the things we're doing. And that really held me back. And until I learned to delegate out different things and trust people, but that also goes side by side with having the right people and trusting them to take on very important parts of what you're doing. It's, it takes time. You have to have the right people, and that's just really it. You know, it's.
I am thinking about closing over.
Yeah.
Helping empower them could really work.
Could I add something to that? Because I think that one of the things I've learned over time is that, and this probably sounds painfully obvious, but I'm a slow learner. So is that everybody's different, and that actually for me, running a team is more about trying to understand what these people are bringing to the table and getting the best out of them. And most of the people that work with me on my team now, I think, are way better at what we do than I am. And I love that. It's my favorite thing about going to work every day is because I learn from them. I mean, whether it's technology or whatever, but I want to be surrounded by people who are better than I am at what I do. But that takes a lot of, going back to earlier, it takes a lot of getting out of your way, not being insecure about that fact, and just being a team player. And whether you're running the team or whatever, it's like you're always setting an example, whether you're on a team or running a team. And that, so I used to want everyone to be like me, and now I'm really glad that they're not.
That's a good point. That's a great point. It's true. Yeah, I think for years I was trying to find people that don't exist because there's not two of me and there's not two of you or you or you. So I started to kind of open my thinking to who could work with me and be a part of the team. And now I have a floral designer that's my studio manager. I have a former nuclear engineer who's our production manager, who was sick of crawling through power plants millimeter by millimeter, inspecting the hoses and valves of nuclear reactors, and decided he wanted to get into some sort of creative field. Shows up one day for a job interview, and I truly was not even considering this person. I just, he didn't seem like the right fit, but he was just an interesting person. He had a lot of work that he had done personally, some really beautiful art projects, and he had some great sort of experience in his field that could possibly be translated into production with the power systems. So one day we were really busy and we landed 2 other contracts, and I needed to focus on those projects, and I needed people to do this production work, and I didn't have anyone to call. So I pulled out this folder of resumes, and I'm like, call him. Shows up, loading trucks, climbing up ladders, rigging lights, doing whatever had to be done. Now, this is someone who had, this fantastic career doing something, decided to make a change, and the fact that he was willing to be loading trucks and wrapping cables and doing all this really impressed me. And so we called him back the next day, and then I think he worked 100 days in a row. And he said, so I have a job offer with Uber for the self-driving car program. I have to let them know within 2 weeks, but I want to work here. I don't want to work there. And that was in his world, a very high-level position in computer science. And he's now my production manager at LUXE Creative. So just interesting. You don't know who or what or how, but again, like there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, there certainly is in certain parts of all of our worlds, but in other parts, it's it's really open, and there's possibilities really anywhere. So don't forget that.
Elliot, do we have time for one more? Where are you? Yes? No? I have to wrap up.
Oh.
Well, how about a round of applause for these gentlemen right here? Very good. And I would like to close with something. I was at the networking event yesterday, and a soon-to-be graduate gave me a hug and said thank you for everything, and she gave me her card. And it says on the back, success is not just what you accomplish in your life, it is about what you inspire others to do. Each of these guys is an inspiration. Absolutely. Thank you. And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. All right, before y'all walk out of here, just to let y'all know, listen, man. Just take this for what I'm saying, because I'm like a psychic. If y'all don't know me, I'm going to tell y'all what's going to happen. The reality is like, you can do this. This isn't that difficult to do. It seems difficult in your seat, and it's easy for me to see it from this seat because I already went through it. But I'm telling you, it's not that hard to do. Just get out of your own way and start taking action. Stop thinking, oh, I should do this. Just start doing things. And then you're going to make mistakes. That shit happens. And it's okay. Make the mistake and learn from it. Say, okay, damn, now I know not to do that, and I won't do that again, and then keep moving. If you stop, most people, and I know a lot of you are doing this, that's why I'm saying this, y'all sitting and you're waiting here too long to figure out, well, I'll just wait till I'm close to graduation. Like, the time is now. It's not right before you graduate. It's not after you graduate. It's now. You got to start doing it now. Figuring out what's going to separate you from all your other colleagues and your classmates, and what's going to put you in the best position to win. And then just do it. You're not going to get it right, but at least you're going to do it. And you're going to learn, and then you're going to adjust. You're going to learn, adjust, and eventually you're going to get to where you're going to get to. And if you keep doing that long enough, you're going to have a seat right here. Cool? All right.
That's what's up.
All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Absolutely.
I'm going to take that advice.
John?
Yeah, let's go.